To Kenya News Alert Breakfast News program together with Channel 7 News East Africa, where we bring you unbiased political discussions. And today morning, we are seeing what's in the papers that will guide our news throughout the day. I am your moderator. My name is Emmanuel Posire. I'll be joined later with our analyst, Arasa Makori, to take us through key ways in understanding what's happening in Kenya, what's happening in the counties, what's happening in East Africa, Africa at large, in the whole world at large, what's going to happen. Now, today the headlines are talking about why KQ or why the Kenya Airways, one of the flight was diverted in London. That's one of the headlines that's guiding our discussion this morning. What could be the possible reasons that made it to be diverted? They are saying maybe it's a security threat, as we'll be diving in to understand what is the main reason that made it to be diverted. Next to that, we'll be talking the talks, the bipartisan talks that are featuring mostly President William Ruto and opposition leader Raila Odinga, and seeing what's really happening in that talks, among those talks, what's the possible future that we're expecting out of it. Now we dive more into page 1, where we're understanding why the KQ was diverted in London for a long period before it was allowed to land down. Now this is the picture here. This is our Kenyan picture, whereby we're seeing this is our plane, the Kenya Airways plane that was diverted in London. Here you see that scare a Kenya Airways flight, that's KQ100, that was flying from Nairobi to London, was yesterday afternoon intercepted by the UK's Air Force and diverted from the Heathrow to Stansted Airport over potential security threats. The plane landed safely and, according to the KQ, was later cleared to continue normal operations. That one we're going to be seeing in page 7. Page 4, we have the progress or the sticky issues in Ruto and Raila's talks, as we shall be guided in page 4. We also be seeing universities hit students with new dress code as indecent clothes are being banned. That one will be talking about it later. Now here is the security scare that happened yesterday, whereby a Kenya Airways airplane on the runway that was diverted to Stansted Airport instead of London, which is a designated airfield for dealing with security threats in the UK. So here we're seeing that it's a scare for sure, that a Kenya Airways flight that was moving from Nairobi to London was yesterday diverted from Heathrow to Stansted Airport over some suspicious people on board. Confirming this incident, Kenya Airways, that's KQ, said that around 10:30 hours, its head office received an alert of a potential security threat on board, which operates from Nairobi to London. That's Heathrow. Now, the Kenya Airways management, in conjunction with the security authorities of the Government of Kenya and the United Kingdom, carried out a thorough risk assessment of the threat. The crew on board were briefed, and all safety and security precautions were taken to ensure the safety and security of the crew and passengers on board, as it said. The national carrier added that the aircraft landed safely at Stansted Airport, London, for security clearance by the UK security personnel. This threat has since been established to have low credibility, it said in a statement yesterday. The BBC reported the airline's CEO, that's to Mr. Alan Kilavuka, as saying there was suspicion of some of the people on board, but nothing to do with a bomb or anything like that. The precautions that were taken was because that the threat had been raised, and so we just wanted to make sure that there was nothing untoward. Now, Stansted is the designated airport for dealing with security issues in the United Kingdom. Now, the facility's proximity to RAF bases allow key resources to be swiftly deployed, while the size of the location enables potential risks to be isolated from other areas. Now, the 24 data said that the Boeing 7878 Dreamliner left Nairobi at 9:18 a.m. after a 13-minute delay. The flight data suggested that the flight path may have been diverted to Northern Europe, back to Africa, and onward to London. The aircraft was flying at 17,000 feet over the English Channel before descending at its travel north along the east. So in brief, we've seen that yesterday afternoon, one of our planes by KQ was diverted its landing in London, which normally happens at Heathrow, but instead it was diverted to another place that's known as Stansted Airport, which normally deals with insecurity threats. This was confirmed, and the threat which was maybe suspected did not really happen to be true. We've seen that this being a security threat, I'm not sure if it's going to affect our relationship with international flights from our country one-on-one to international airports like those ones of London and other parts, and see what will uh, happening to the world. Now, on the same note, before maybe we discuss much about it, we're talking where our president, you see our president in Turkana Cultural and Tourism Festival that happened the other day, and that's yesterday in Lodwar. You'll be seeing him. Now, here back, we've seen one of the challenges that faced the KQ yesterday. One of our flights, which was flying from Nairobi to London, was diverted to Stansted International Airport yesterday of possible security threat. So the United Kingdom had information and intelligence that the Kenya Airways, one of the planes that was traveling yesterday to London, had a security threat, something that had to be sorted out. And we saw our plane being diverted to London Stansted Airport, which deals with insecurities. So the news is that the threat that was expected to be happening for sure did not happen, and later on it was allowed to land safely. I don't know your reactions about the diversion of a plane, and maybe could it be that other country will be having these threats anymore? I know for sure if they'll be happening, they'll be affecting the transportation business. It will affect our international relationship with international airplanes, airports, and many others. Now we're moving back to Kenya leadership and maybe political news, whereby yesterday we had the Turkana Cultural and Festival events happening in Lodwar, where the president and other key leaders for our country attended. We are expecting that the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga will be attending the function today, and maybe will also be giving his remarks over the same as they celebrate the festival and cultural lives of the Turkana people. The president says that we are going to open our country to the world. Is it possible? Let's dive in and read what is happening there. Now, President William Ruto has reiterated his commitment to opening Kenya to the world. We say that Kenya to the world. The president on Thursday graced the annual Turkana Tourism and Cultural Festival, popularly known as Tobungulore. I may not pronounce it the same as the people from Turkana, which attracted thousands of visitors from across the world. Tobungulore translates to welcome home. Okay. We are committed to facilitating people from all over the world to Kenya come visa free. The people from all over the world are allowed to come to Kenya without the need of having a visa. For sure it will happen and help maybe many people who've been limited to come due to lack of a visa to our country. Now, Dr. Ruto said in Lodwar yesterday, the news of President Ruto gracing the ceremony brought Lodwar to a standstill. Clad in traditional attire, Dr. Ruto arrived in Lodwar on Wednesday ahead of three-day event. The 7th Tobungulore coming a day after Kenya marked Utamaduni Culture Day, brought together pastoral communities from Kenya, Ethiopia, South Sudan, and Uganda. Now, Turkana County is the cradle of mankind, where life began. Everyone needs to visit Turkana and experience the origin of humans. The president said, you can see him for sure, clad in the Turkana attire, about welcome home. He has talked about the coming home. Now, archaeologists have determined that the East African savanna was where human ancestors evolved. Kenya has been recognized by experts to be the cradle of humankind. He said the government will develop the laboratory that was started by Dr. Richard Leakey and build a science park in the region, saying, and I quote, my administration will market Turkana so that the world can visit the origin of mankind. We are keen on investing in cultural preservation. That's the president who said. The president added that the cabinet has approved the cultural bill, while others like the Creative Economy Framework, the National Kiswahili Council of Kenya, the Kenya Film, and the National Heritage and Museum bills are being developed. The festival, which premiered at St. Patrick's Primary School, Kemer, in August 2014, has lived to its expectations. Organizers say it has promoted peace by providing communities with an opportunity to display and celebrate their culture. Now, elders and special guests donned headgear decorated with ostrich feathers. These year events that showcased traditional food, beadwork, crafts, songs, dances, and oral narrations. There were exhibitions and excursions to Lake Turkana, the world's largest permanent desert water body. Cultural groups drawn from the 30 Turkana County wards performed at a Calais Center. Others at the event were tourism and wildlife CS Alfred Mutua and his gender, culture, arts, and heritage colleague Aisha Jumwa. Dr. Ruto said his government is keen on complementing stalled projects, including roads connecting Kenya and Ethiopia. Ms. Jumwa said that as much as the Constitution encourages pride in ethnic, cultural, and religious diversity, the government will not tolerate retrogressive practices like FGM. Dr. Mutua said his ministry will ensure the number of people visiting Kenya increases. Governor Jeremiah Lomurukrai urged the president to end insecurity in in the region. Now, those are news that happened yesterday. Before we dive in to talk about the bipartisan talks. So we've seen that brief and wonderful the experience about yesterday, the president attending the Turkana cultural events that happened in Lodwar, stating that, as we know from history, that East Africa is considered to be the cradle of mankind, as Richard Leakey and his laboratory once found through the archaeologists studies and others that in East Africa life began. For those ones who believe more about the evolution of man and how far we've come. So we've come to learn that East Africa is is termed as to be the cradle home for life, for human beings. And to be even more specific, the Turkana regions. Now, these are an event that's coming one day after we celebrated the Utamaduni Day as a country, whereby we remember our cultural practices, what we used to do, what our ancestors used to do, what our great-great-grandfathers used to do, how they used to cook, how they used to dress, how they used to eat, how they used to marry, what were their religious beliefs and experiences. Now, all those happened in the other day. Yesterday, the Turkana people had time to celebrate, and President William Ruto actually had to attend, together with tourism and cabinet secretary, that's Dr. Alfred Mutua, the culture and gender cabinet secretary Aisha Juma also was there. The president gave his speech stating that as a country we want to build a laboratory that was started by Richard Leakey, more and more to whereby studies can be done, the studies about the origin of human beings, and maybe creating, maybe a museum over the same. I talked about the film industry has also been working out through the cabinet secretaries in parliament, and many more others that were given. Dr. Mutua said that a way is going to be worked out to ensure that we have many visitors who visit our country per year annually. By one of the reasons is to make sure that we want to have people come into Kenya visa free, whereby the visa issue is no longer going to be used, whereby you are able to come Kenya without maybe having a visa, as we see when we going to abroad countries, maybe in Europe, maybe in America, maybe in Middle East, whereby you're required to have a visa that guarantees you maybe your work stay, your visit tour, maybe your religious experience, and many more. Now we want to move forward and see what's really happening in the Bomas, the bipartisan talks, what's happening there, what lies the future for the bipartisan talks. You think there, that's Wiper, Kalonzo Musyoka, and National Assembly Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah, who addressed the journalists at the Bomas of Kenya on Nairobi on September 1st, 2023 in Nairobi. Now, President William Ruto and Azimio leader Raila Odinga are in agreement over the creation of the offices of the Prime Cabinet Secretary and official opposition. They are in agreement. The President William Ruto and Azimio leader, that's the former Prime Cabinet Minister, Raila Amolo Odinga, are in agreement over the creation of the offices of the Prime Cabinet Secretary and official opposition leader. The 10-member National Dialogue Committee yesterday announced they have also reached consensus on the two-thirds gender principle and entrenchment of national government constituency fund. The items were not contested during the talks at Bomas, Kenya. Now, the constitution of the Independence Electoral and Boundaries Commission, that's IEBC, Azimio la Umoja One Coalition Party demand for forensic audit of the 2022 presidential poll results and cost of living remain contested issues. The talks team have scheduled yet another meeting this morning to tackle some of the contentious items as they race against time to conclude the negotiations and submit a report to Parliament. After they're done, they want to submit a report to Parliament. Now, the consensus around creation of positions has the potential of setting up Mr. Odinga against his supporters who rallied around the high cost of living and electoral reforms to stage anti-government protests that subsequently forced President Ruto to the negotiation table, agreeing to the deal without succeeding to push the government to lower the high cost of living and to effect major electoral reforms would be seen as betrayal by the opposition supporters. It is also a U-turn by President Ruto, who campaigned against constitutional amendments to create positions for the political elite, whereby Dr. Ruto swept the power by promising to lower the cost of living and to create job opportunities for hustlers. But the two are now united to create positions for the political class. Yesterday, Mr. Kimani Ichung'wah, the National Dialogue Committee co-chair, the National Assembly Majority Leader, said they had made progress on most of the non-contested items. Mr. Ichung'wah also disclosed that there is progress in addressing the issue of fidelity to political parties. That one to political parties. So those are those are more about the talks, the bipartisan talks, led by Kimani Ichung'wah and Kalonzo Musyoka of Wiper, leading us to have the bipartisan talks having an agreement that the 10-member committee, the dialogue, has reached a consensus. They have reached an agreement that what they need for sure is that they've reached this agreement of creating a seat for prime cabinet secretary, so meaning Musalia Mudavadi will be sorted out, and creating official office for the official opposition leader, that's Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga, and he is going now to be sorted. So that one, they have an agreement. But talking about the other things, maybe talking about the IBC, still there's a problem, and the high cost of living. According to them, they say they have not really agreed on how the government should work and see what's happening. On that note, I want to have a brief discussion about the creation of these offices. We remember that President William Ruto, during the campaigns and during the development of Building Bridges Initiative, that was the BBI, formerly known as Punguza Mzigo Initiative, that has been started by Ekuru Court, and then someone came and changed it to BBI. We saw the nationwide selling and mobilization and advertisement of the BBI. President William Ruto was then the deputy president. And being the deputy president, then he was insisting on why we never wanted the BBI then, stating that it was not meant to benefit local mwananchi, but it was meant to create positions for the few dynasties, whereby he was referring himself to be the hustler. But 1 year down the line, we've seen him again advocating for the creation of these same seats that the BBI had advocated. BBI had advocated for having maybe a prime minister, having a president, having two deputy presidents, whereby one is a male and the other is a female, where we would be having two senators, one male senator, one female senator, and many others that we saw in the BBI, even including the World Development Fund. Something that he single-handedly fought, and we saw BBI not materializing come to its end. But now, 1 year after the elections, the president again is telling us that there's a need that we need to have an office for the prime cabinet secretary and have an office for official opposition leader, whereby it's believed that Raila Amolo Odinga is the official is the official opposition leader. Now, what could this be? How ironical is this? That today I say this thing is bad, and then tomorrow the same person comes and gives us reasons to why we need these two seats. By the look, and we've been seeing the reshuffle that he did the other day about the cabinet secretaries. We saw Musalia Mudavadi, who is the prime cabinet secretary as of now, being added another seat of foreign affairs and diaspora affairs. So we see him, maybe if the consensus, as we've seen from the bipartisan talks, agree to work and build and create these seats, then Musalia Mudavadi will be sorted. Now we'll be saying that now Musalia Mudavadi has a job that the Constitution recognizes. Raila Amolo Odinga has the official opposition seat, and those offices does not come without funds. They come with a budget, they come with taxpayers' money, and they'll be running all over. I don't know your views about it, but I will be asking you to maybe give your suggestion in the comment sections. What is it? Are there political developments that the president wants to do in return to maintain Musalia Mudavadi in UDA and to contain Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga from moving and doing more demonstrations? I don't know, but you'll be giving us your thoughts over the same as we be moving on. Now, next we sing the deputy president, Gachagua 6 Kenya Kwanza unity, as lawmakers support the shares claims. I'll be joining shortly with our analyst who's going to join us and be giving us his thoughts. The deputy president, that's Rigathi Gachagua, is seeking or is looking for ways whereby Kenya Kwanza will be united as lawmakers support shares claims. We know that recently the political developments that you've seen, there could be a possible problem between the president and the deputy president. We saw the president in Luo Nyanza, his statements, maybe planning to work together with the former Prime Minister, and that's Raila Amolo Odinga, claims by Rigathi Gachagua saying that he's going to have an handshake with Uhuru Kenyatta. And again, moving forward, we've seen maybe the people from Mount Kenya region coming and saying that they would rally behind the deputy president, that's Rigathi Gachagua, to make sure that President William Ruto does not betray the son of Mau Mau. Now, this comes even as 7 United Democratic Alliance, MPs backed Mr. Gachagua in demanding that those who voted for President William Ruto in last year's election should get a lion's share of jobs and resources, commonly known as shares, as the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua always has been terming them, saying that this government is like a company. Those with many shares get a lot of profit, and those with little shares get a little profit. Now, the 7 UDA MPs who've rallied behind the deputy president are saying that the shares are good. They're saying that those who for sure voted in this president should get a lion's share of jobs and resources. Over the past 2 months, I have been on a mission to unite UDA strongholds in the country, and those are the words of Rigathi Gachagua. And I will continue to do that until the next general election. Mr. Gachagua said on Wednesday that I've been working tirelessly in the past 2 months, and what I have been doing, I'm on a mission. And this mission that I am is to unite the strongholds of UDA. And this will be my work until the general election in 2027. Not about jobs to the unemployment. It's not talking about by saying that what we are going to do here is to unite the strongholds. And this I've said that wherever politicians see people, they see them as voters. They don't see them as Kenyans. Now, Mr. Gachawa's oft-stated position that government jobs and resources be dished out based on how region voted has rubbed President Ruto the wrong way. The head of state has dismissed the DP's metaphor of the government being a limited liability company whose biggest shareholders are regions that voted for Kenya Kwanza as primitive talk. Dr. Ruto said in Kisumu last week that all Kenyans paid taxes irrespective of party affiliation or voting patterns and deserved equal access to government services. Mr. Gachagua on Wednesday at Kishamorau Boys Secondary School in Narok, where he presided of Narok West Constituency 5-year strategic plan, he was accompanied by Narok Governor, that's part of Trick Olentutu, MPs Gabriel Tongoyo from Narok West, MP Francis Sigei from Sotik, Sitati Wanyama of Webuye West, John Gitonga of Manyata constituency, Nimrod Mbai of Kitui East, Benjamin Gathuru of Embakasi Central, and East African Register Assembly MP David Sankok, who also accompanied the deputy president to Narok. Now, these are the remarks whereby we see the deputy president, the deputy president of our country, that's Honorable Rigathi Gachagua, talking about shares. Now, some of the MPs from UDA have come to support him, saying that what he's really saying is true, that the Kenyan government is all about share, whereby those ones who voted in Kenya Kwanza government should first benefit and get a lion's share meetings, and maybe get more about what the government has for the development of the country compared to other regions who maybe voted little. But we saw the president in Kisumu last week saying that all Kenyans deserve development, whether they voted in the Kenya Kwanza or they never voted in. Depending on any political affiliation that one has, you will still remain to be a Kenyan and you deserve every development like any other Kenyan. So we think these controversial statements here. One, the head of state is saying that that's a primitive talk. And two, the deputy president saying that for sure those who voted for us are first to get jobs and resources, and those who did not vote for us will get limited resources and jobs. Something that has been very controversial in the country, all over the social media, all over the media, and everyone. I don't know your thoughts over the same. You will maybe also give us your thoughts in the comment sections. We'll be moving on again to the next page here, as we'll be seeing what will be happening here. Mackenzie, tulikuwa tumesahau Mackenzie. Nini imefanyika pale? Kwamba Shakahola suspects writing letters to each other in prison. Shakahola suspects writing letters to each other in prison. Washukiwa wa Shakahola wanaandikiana barua pale gerezani. Prison authorities claim Mackenzie and his followers are using them to propagate their beliefs. Now, let's dive in. Like the biblical apostle Paul, suspects being investigated for the Shakahola massacre are writing and exchanging letters in prison, encouraging each other on the importance of fasting. That, like the biblical apostle Paul, suspects being investigated for the Shakahola massacre are writing and exchanging letters in prison, encouraging each other on the importance of fasting. Now, prison authorities have claimed the key suspect, that's Paul Mackenzie, and his associates may be using letters to further promote extreme religious beliefs in prison, spreading the gospel of fasting as the only way to meet Jesus. In documents filed with Shanzu Court, prison officials said they had intercepted correspondence dated 22 July 2023 that appeared to encourage fasting until death as the only way to a supposed heaven. From a reading of the context of the correspondence, the police have reasonable grounds to believe that it contains the religious instructions emanating from an extreme belief system that's subject of investigations into the Shakahola massacre. Chief Inspector Raphael Wanjohi said in an affidavit filed with the court, the letter has been handed over to the Director of Criminal Investigations, that's the DCI, for forensic examination to identify the author. The information provides a basis for fasting to death, describing it as the only way to transition to be with Jesus. According to Wanjohi, and we've seen all that, so that's the former, that's the news that have been trending in our country about the purported to see Jesus Christ. Now, this is a story that we saw it trending all over the beginning of this year, whereby Pastor Paul Mackenzie of Shakahola is the main suspect of this Shakahola massacre, of guiding their believers to fast until death. I don't know what your thoughts are, but according to the report, is that the suspects are writing each other letters, like Paul wrote letters from prison and sent them to the Galatians. He sent some of the letters to Ephesians. He sent some of his letters to the people of Romans. He sent some of his letters to the people of Corinth. He sent some of his letters to his friends like Philemon, like Ephesians. He sent many letters to many believers, some which are very, very relevant up to our day. Now, Shakahola's main suspect, Paul Mackenzie, and others are exchanging letters also of advising and encouraging each other to continue fasting until death as the only way to see a proposed heaven, as the only way to see Jesus. Christians for sure believe on fasting, and fasting has its own benefits of fasting, even maybe to reduce the spread of diseases. Fasting helps in strengthening and giving you more time to prayer, but fasting to a point of death, I think here religious leaders will guide us more about it. Why should one fast up to death? And not willingful fasting, but maybe forced fasting, as we saw in Shakahola. Anyway, we'll yet dive in and be understanding what's happening. Now let's move on and see this one about the GMOs, genetically modified food. The Environment and Land Court yesterday dismissed a petition challenging the government's move to lift a ban on the cultivation of biotechnology foods, paving the way for the growing and importation of genetically modified crops. In a dispatch in October last year, the cabinet lifted a 10-year ban imposed on biotechnology foods, sparking a number of court cases due to fears that the importation of genetically modified organisms might be harmful to human health, animals, and the environment, and biodiversity. GMOs and the application of technology is largely contested. Justice Oscar Angote dismissed the case, stating that Kenya has put in place a robust biosafety regulatory framework with inbuilt structures that must be met before the importation of cultivation of GMOs. With all these institutions, we should be confident that our health and environment are those ones. So you'll be reading this more and more in this particular page, and you'll be understanding what's really happening. Now, the county's news is that Kimani Wamatangi, this Kiambu governor, unveils ambitious healthcare plan for the needy. So you're seeing their middle is the governor for Kiambu, that is Kimani Wamatangi, who unveiled an ambitious healthcare plan that would benefit over 300,000 vulnerable individuals. This is a very special day for Kiambu County. It is the day we have unveiled a life-changing program, the Kiambu Afya Universal Healthcare Scheme. Mr. Wamatangi said at Kirigiti Stadium during the launch of the initiative. So those are county news whereby we're saying what's happening. So in agriculture today, we're talking about state to buy 1 million bags of maize from farmers. In Tukadinturi, the CS for agriculture says the government will buy a 90 kg bag of maize at 4,000 from farmers here in Kenya. The government will buy 1 million bags of maize starting from next month. Agriculture and Livestock Cabinet Secretary Mithika Rinturi has said the CS said the maize will be purchased through the National Cereals and Produce Board for the National Strategic Food Reserve. Would it be relief to Kenyans? We don't know. National news, end of the road. Cuban doctors set to leave as ministry calls off agreement. This is about health, whereby the government has cancelled contract for Cuban doctors 6 years after signing an agreement with the Cuban government in 2017. Making the announcement on Wednesday, the Health Cabinet Secretary Susan Nakumincha expressed confidence that Kenyan health professionals were just as good as their Cuban counterparts. The ministry will not renew contacts with the Cuban doctors. I believe our own doctors are equally committed to the cause. How true is that? I don't know. But when you read more about this page, you'll be able to understand for sure what's the problem and what is really happening and what's the real issue here. About health. Cuban doctors, madaktari wa Cuba wameambiwa kwamba warudi kwao. Tuwakumbuka kwamba mwaka 2017 walipata mkataba na kandarasi ya kufanya kazi katika taifa letu la Kenya. Miaka 6 imekwisha na mkataba wao umeweza kukamilika, na waziri wa afya Susan anasema kwamba yote yameweza kufika mwisho, na atarajii kama kwamba serikali yetu itaweza renew ama kuandika kandarasi hiyo upya. I don't know, what are your thoughts? What do you see about it? She stated that our Kenyan doctors are best, or they are doing the best job, just like what the Cuban doctors can do. So instead of renewing the contract, let's give our Kenyan doctors that opportunity to be treating our Kenyans. Now let's move on, and maybe as we come to the end of this morning news, we'll be seeing again what's happening here as the Cuban doctors be moving. What's happening then? Now, one of them is saying that as they leave, it exits a saving. I think the government has ended the contracts of 120 Cuban doctors who have been working in Kenya for the past 6 years in a bilateral health agreement. Through the engagement of the foreign workers, sparked controversy at the beginning. They put in their shift, but the jury is still on the benefit of the health sector. However, the country applauds the work of the individual Cuban physicians in the countries. The initial bitterness over their astronomical remuneration notwithstanding, an average salary of 625,000 on arrival in 2017, they earned more than double their Kenyan counterparts. The biggest problem with the deal initiated by former President Uhuru Kenyatta's administration was that it was too expensive for the taxpayers to maintain the foreign doctors. Now they're being paid a lot of money, but they're coming to the end, and that money they were being paid, it's going to be used. AI is artificial intelligence killing jobs. Now, in a world dominated by rapid technological advancements, the emergence of artificial intelligence has significantly altered various aspects of daily life, from virtual assistants to data analysis tools. Artificial intelligence enhances efficiency and convenience. Prominent AI model ChatGPT has particularly raised concern about its potential impact on reading and research culture. But while it seems AI is reducing the inclination to read and conduct traditional research, closer look reveals a more nuanced picture. ChatGPT has revolutionized accessibility of information. One can quickly retrieve answers and solutions to queries without sifting through lengthy texts, making information more readily available and widely too. Instead of spending hours in libraries or online databases, one can dedicate more time to productive tasks. Education institutions are incorporating AI technologies to personalize learning experience. AI-based tutoring and chatbots provide immediate responses to students' questions, encouraging them to read, encouraging more active participation and engaging in learning. I don't know your thoughts, but when you be reading more about it, you may be able to understand the effects of AI. Today in history, October 13th, 1986, National Assembly Speaker Fred Marty declares Nairobi's Mathare parliamentary seat, held by Andrew Kimani Ngumu, right vacant. Sources say that the right was sent to supervisor of elections Zakaria Nyarongo to set up official machinery to fill the seat after the MP missed the maximum 8 consecutive sittings, having fled the country on August 15. Hiyo ndio ilihappen hiyo wakati, siku kama ya leo, alipong'olewa, kaambiwa wewe sasa enda nyumbani, enda nyumbani. County news pale, Mwangaza anaambia MCS, you cannot summon me. Pale kuna stopping the bloodshed pale Sondu. Askari wako kazi kuhakikisha kuna amani. DRC camp women girls, those are international news. Blinken says support for Israel. He's saying the war in Israel and how they are going on to see it. Pale kwa biashara tunaona kwamba Kenya taps 6.7 billion loan for geothermal plants upgrade. Pewa pesa nyingi wafanye kazi ya stima to generate electricity and to bring more and more and more. Sports, hapa ndio tunafika mwisho. Tukiona kwamba kuna jamaa anaitwa Kiptum ambao wanatusaidia sana katika mambo ya athletics pale nje. Sashema as famous Mashemeji Derby has lost its mojo, kwamba kuna shida pale AFC Leopards, kwamba AFC imeenda chini sana na ile derby yao na Kogalo imeweza kuenda chini. Pale tunamuona Firat sticks to job at hand despite furore over selection. This is Harambee Stars coach ambaye anaitwa Ingning Firat during a team training. Huyu sasa kazi yake ni kama inaenda kufika kileleni na mwisho. Wale ambao mnapenda kuangalia hockey pale mwisho mtasoma muone nini kinaendelea. Mtu ameiba pesa. We'll be reading all those. International Day for Rural Women. Yoyote will get it. Nobel Awards, nani alipewa? From the farm to platforms, how the improvements are, and many more of it. Pale Laikipia, Wajir Women Rep, wenye wanafanya kazi zao kila wakati. Wale mapenzi, romantic. This is what we look for when choosing a romantic partner. If you want a romantic partner, young people are just beginning to explore the world of dating or are still on the market and known to prioritize financial alignment with their prospective partners. But if these interviews views are anything to go by, money is really not everything. Wanasema ukitafuta mchumba, pesa sio kila kitu. You can use other means to get yourself a partner. Now this brings us to the end of our morning news. Now this has been our morning news here in Kenya News Alert, in Channel 7 News East Africa, where we brought you morning news in the newspapers, what you'll be reading throughout the day. Wherever you purchase your newspaper today, we'll meet in headlines as we begin by the Kenya Q, our airplane which was diverted at London to Statesford International Airport over security threat. We've seen the bipartisan talks in Bomas agreeing to create a prime cabinet secretary office together with official opposition leader office and many others. We've seen on the Turkana Cultural Festival, the president attended yesterday. Today, it's expected that Raila Amolo Odinga will attend. We saw Mheshimiwa Rigathi Gachagua's talks wanting to continue the shareholder talks, why the president terms them to be primitive talks and more others. I am Emmanuel Bosire and I'm your moderator here in the morning news in Kenya News Alert TV and Channel 7 News East Africa. Thank you for joining. Until we meet again, goodbye. Have a good day.